At the beach with my kids, I got a strange text. Leave quietly. Don't tell your children. I followed the instructions. What I discovered next was their horrifying plan, and the police were already on their way. Imagine this. You're 78, a widow, finally finding some peace, enjoying a beautiful day at the beach with your 3 beloved children. Then your phone buzzes and a message appears that rips your world apart, revealing a betrayal so deep, so monstrous, it threatens your very life. That text message wasn't just a warning, it was my only chance to escape the unthinkable. My name is Joan Morales, and at 78 years old, I've seen a lot in life. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared me for what happened on July 15, 2023. It was a perfect summer Saturday on the beaches of Chicago, just 2 years after I lost my dear Robert. My children, Sergio, 55, Christina, 52, and Raquel, 48, had insisted we spend the day together. Honestly, I was thrilled. Since Robert's passing, we'd grown distant. Sergio was always buried in his business, Christina in her world of luxury, and Raquel barely visited. But that day, they seemed different, almost too attentive, too loving. We settled under a blue umbrella, the lake calm, seagulls circling. I watched families feeling, for the first time in ages, truly part of something. Then my phone rang. 2:47 p.m. An unknown number. I usually ignore those, but something nudged me to check the text. My blood ran cold. Leave quietly. Don't say anything to your children. Who would send such a thing? And why specifically mention my kids? I looked at Sergio, Christina, and Raquel, still chatting. Their laughter, once so comforting, now sounded forced, chilling. Another message buzzed in. It's urgent. Your life depends on it. I'm in the parking lot. Red car. Trust me. My heart hammered. All my life, I've been careful, but I've also learned to trust my gut. And my gut was screaming. I feel a little dizzy, I lied, slowly rising. Too much sun, I think. Just going for a short walk to cool off. Sergio immediately offered to join. No, I replied, forcing a smile. Just need a bit of air. I'll be right back. Christina looked at me with what seemed like genuine concern. Be careful, Mom. Don't go too far. I walked towards the parking lot, trying to appear casual, but my mind was a whirlwind. Who knew I was here? Who knew my children well enough to send such a specific, terrifying warning? Then I saw her. A woman, maybe 35, brown hair in a ponytail, waiting by a red Ford Focus. Her eyes held a nervous determination I instantly recognized. Nora, I whispered, disbelief washing over me. Nora Jimenez had worked as a housekeeper at Sergio's house for 8 years. I knew her well, responsible, discreet, a single mother to Valerie, her 8-year-old daughter. I'd always made sure Sergio treated her fairly. Mrs. Morales, she said, her voice trembling. Thank you for coming. I know this must seem very strange, but you need to listen. Your life is in danger. The world spun. The beach sounds, the waves, the conversations, everything faded. What are you talking about, Nora? She glanced nervously towards the beach. We can't talk here. Get in the car, please. I have something to show you. My gut instinct kicked in again. For 8 years, Nora had been loyal. If she was risking so much, it had to be serious. I got in. She started the car, driving towards a secluded industrial area. Mrs. Morales, she began, her voice tight. What I'm about to tell you will be very hard to believe. But your children are planning to hurt you. My children? Planning to hurt me? It was impossible. Yet, the raw fear in her face demanded I listen. She stopped in a quiet spot. With trembling hands, she pulled out her phone. Mrs. Morales, I've worked for Sergio since 2015. Yesterday, cleaning his office, I found some suspicious papers. But what I discovered later. Her voice broke. I took pictures as proof. She showed me the first image, a bank document with my signature. But I didn't remember it. Do you recognize this, Mrs. Morales? It was my signature, no doubt. But the date, July 8th, just a week ago, disturbed me. Yes, it's mine. Wait, that was the day of the barbecue at Sergio's. They asked me to sign several papers, said they were health insurance forms. Nora nodded gravely. That's what I thought. But look closer. She zoomed in. My eyes widened in horror. It wasn't health insurance. It was a bank transfer authorization for $950,000. My entire fortune. The savings of a lifetime. This can't be real, I whispered, blood running cold. There's more, Nora continued, showing another picture. A power of attorney, giving Sergio absolute control over all my assets. The third image left me breathless. A forged draft of my will, leaving everything to my 3 children, eliminating any charitable donations I'd planned for my church. But how? I murmured. I was conscious. I remember that day. Nora looked at me with urgent compassion. Mrs. Morales, do you remember feeling strange after you ate? Dizzy? Confused? Drowsy? A shiver went through me. Yes. I'd felt unusually tired, blaming it on the heat and my age, or maybe the weekly wine. I found this in Sergio's kitchen, she said, showing another photo. A small bottle labeled Brotzepam, 6 milligrams. Traces of a colorless liquid, too. My mind raced, connecting the dots. The insistent family lunch. My strange drowsiness. The documents I signed without fully reading, because I trusted them. They drugged me, I whispered, more to myself. I think so, yes, Nora confirmed, but the worst is yet to come. Nora took a deep breath. Last night, clearing plates after dinner, I overheard Sergio on the phone. He was talking about a huge debt, Mrs. Morales. $380,000. The figure hit me like a physical blow. None of my children earned enough to cover that. Sergio sounded desperate, telling the person that the old problem would be solved soon. He'd have the funds. When he mentioned your name, Mrs. Morales, I knew I had to warn you. Who do they owe so much money to? I'm not entirely sure, but I heard names that scared me. People from the south side of Chicago involved in illegal loans. Sergio repeated Miguel the Blade several times. I knew that name. Chicago had its dangerous corners, and ruthless loan sharks were a reality I preferred to ignore. Now, that reality had reached my own flesh and blood. But if they already have access to my money with those forged documents, why do they need? Nora interrupted, grave-faced. There's a problem, Mrs. Morales. Banks are cautious with large transfers from seniors. They need you present, conscious, to ratify any transaction over $100,000. Then, the full horror dawned. It wasn't enough to drug me once. They needed to keep me under control, manipulable, maybe permanently incapacitated. There's something else, Nora added, her voice barely audible. This morning, before they left for the beach, I heard Christina on the phone. She mentioned a plan B if you became a problem. Plan B? I couldn't hear everything, but she said words like accident, stairs at home, and quick inheritance. The full force of the situation crashed over me. My own children, my flesh and blood, weren't just planning to rob me. They were willing to get rid of me if necessary. That's why I sent you the message. Mrs. Morales. Last night, I called the police. They're investigating, but they need more evidence. Earlier today, they told me they would search your house this afternoon. The police are involved? Yes. Inspector Thomas Grant. He suggested I warn you discreetly when you went out today. They're already on their way to your house with a search warrant. In less than an hour, I'd gone from a happy family day to discovering my children were planning to drug, rob, and potentially kill me. What do we do now, Nora? We go directly to the police station. Inspector Grant wants your statement and a blood test. A wave of gratitude and terror washed over me. Gratitude for this brave woman who risked everything to save me, and terror at the inconceivable betrayal. Thank you, Nora. I don't know how I can ever repay you. She looked at me with steely determination. You always treated me with respect, Mrs. Morales. I could never let them hurt you. As we drove to the station, a question pounded in my mind. How had my family reached this point of desperation? And what else were they willing to do? The 15-minute drive felt like an eternity. Nora drove nervously, checking mirrors. I tried to grasp the scale of the conspiracy. Mrs. Morales, Nora said, breaking the silence, there are more details you need to know. She pulled over. Last night, after Sergio's call, I investigated further. I waited until everyone was asleep and searched his office. I found a hidden folder. She showed me pictures of documents that made my blood run cold. Receipts for extravagant purchases. A new Mercedes for Sergio, $95,000, luxury jewelry for Christina, $45,000, a coastal condo for Raquel, $180,000. None of them make enough to afford this, Nora explained. Sergio made $3,500 a month, Christina $2,800, Raquel $2,200. It's impossible for them to afford such a lifestyle. The math was damning. Less than $9,000 a month combined. So, how did they finance all this? That's the scariest part, Mrs. Morales. I found private loan contracts with illegal lenders. Brutal terms, 15% monthly interest, physical threats, impossible deadlines. She showed me photocopies. Sergio owed $150,000, Christina $120,000, Raquel $110,000. A total of $380,000 to people known for violent collection methods. And this Miguel the Blade, from what I found out, leads a loan shark organization in the rougher parts of Chicago. He has a criminal record for extortion, threats, assault. His methods are brutal. A chill ran through me. They hadn't just fallen into debt, they'd chosen one of the most dangerous. When were these loans due? Nora checked her photos. July 20th. That's in 5 days. If they don't pay in full, the consequences will be severe. Now I understood their desperation. My money or violent retaliation. But there's something more disturbing, Nora continued, trembling. A recorded conversation on Sergio's phone he forgot to delete. She played a low-quality audio, but it was clear. Sergio's voice, talking to a man with a thick Chicago accent. Miguel, I need more time. The old lady is more suspicious than we thought. No more time, Sergio. $380,000 by Thursday. Or we start with the corrections. I have a plan. My mother has almost $1 million. I just need her to be cooperative. And if she doesn't cooperate? A long pause. Then Sergio's cold voice. Then we'll have to speed up her departure. A household accident, something natural for a woman her age. The inheritance would be processed in weeks. Tears streamed down my face. Hearing my own son plan my death with such calculated coldness was worse than any financial betrayal. When did you record this? The night before last. Sergio was in the garden, thinking no one was listening, but his bedroom window was open, and his phone was connected to an automatic recorder he uses for work. Are the others in on the plan? Completely. I found WhatsApp messages between them, coordinating. Christina researched medications to simulate a natural heart attack. Raquel discreetly consulted a funeral home about rapid cremation. The scale of their conspiracy overwhelmed me. Not impulsive desperation, but a meticulously crafted plan. Each had a role. What kind of drugs did they use? A combination of brozapam, a powerful anti-anxiety drug, mixed with sertraline. Sertraline causes temporary confusion, memory loss, and excessive trust, making victims sign without questioning. Where did they get them? Christina works at a pharmaceutical company. She has access. The puzzle clicked. The family lunch, the special wine, the documents. All calculated. Nora, why did you risk so much? I asked, looking at her, this extraordinary woman. You could have just quit. She met my gaze with a mix of determination and emotion. Mrs. Morales, you were the only person who treated me with dignity when I needed it most. When Valerie was born, a single mother, you made sure Sergio gave me paid maternity leave. When Valerie was sick, you paid her medical bills without me even asking. Her words moved me deeply. Besides, she continued, if I allowed them to hurt a good person like you, what example would I be for my daughter? Some principles are worth more than any job. As we approached the police station, a terrible certainty settled in. The family I had loved and protected for decades was willing to murder me for money. If I didn't act immediately, in 5 days, I could be dead. While we waited in the station lobby, my mind reeled, sifting through the last 2 years with devastating clarity. It all started on September 23, 2021, when Robert, my husband of 52 years, passed away after a 6-month battle with pancreatic cancer. I remembered my children's behavior during those final days, attentive, loving, seemingly devastated. But now, through this new, chilling lens, those acts of filial love took on a sinister meaning. Sergio's repeated insistence on knowing our financial details to help with paperwork. Christina's constant inquiries about my savings to ensure you have everything you need. Raquel, the youngest, subtly memorizing account information under the guise of supporting mom. I had seen their concern, now I saw their calculation. The months after Robert's funeral were the darkest. The house felt empty, choked with memories. I sank into a deep depression. Then I found refuge in faith. St. Michael's Parish, Father Anthony's wise words. The pain you feel is the other side of the love you shared with Robert. Don't run from it. Accept it. My children intensified their visits. Tuesdays for Sergio, Thursdays for Christina, Saturdays for Raquel. I thought we were finally building the family bonds Robert had always wanted. But looking back, the patterns were disturbing. They always asked about my health, taking medication, trouble remembering, considered a power of attorney for emergencies. The money questions were constant, disguised as concern. Mom, have you thought about consolidating your savings? Online access? Updated your will since Dad passed. Sergio was particularly insistent on the will. In January 2022, just 4 months after Robert's death, he pressured me to see the lawyer. I agreed, thinking it sensible. I remembered that visit. Sergio was present the whole time. The lawyer, Mr. Garcia, had prepared documents to modernize my will. I signed everything, trusting I was securing my children's future. Now, I wondered what else they'd slipped in. Christina, the unofficial family administrator, offered to handle my bills. Mom, let me help you with these boring things. You focus on recovering. Gradually, she gained full access to my financial information. Raquel, the most subtle, focused on my emotional state. Mom, you can trust me. The older ones sometimes don't understand, but I'll always be here. During our intimate chats, she extracted information about my charitable intentions, my desire to donate to the parish, my future plans. Each child had a specialty in their conspiracy. Sergio for legal, Christina for daily finances, Raquel for emotional manipulation. The most significant change was in the last 6 months. Their visits became more frequent, but also more tense. Exchanges of glances, conversations stopping abruptly when I entered the room. A palpable stress. In June 2023, Sergio suggested regular family gatherings at his house. Now that you're doing better, Mom, we should spend more time together. Dad would have wanted to see us united. Those Sunday lunches became weekly events I looked forward to, thinking we had finally found harmony. But for my children, they had a different purpose: to study my routines, assess my mental state, prepare the ground. The July 8th lunch, when they drugged me, was the culmination of months of meticulous preparation. Not an impulsive act, but a calculated strategy. Sitting in that waiting room, surrounded by public safety posters, a bitter realization settled in. For 2 years, I had mistaken calculated manipulation for filial love. My vulnerability after Robert's death had turned them into predators, not comforters. My faith, which had healed me, now faced its hardest test. How could I reconcile forgiveness with the brutal reality that my own children planned to murder me? Joan Morales, please come in. Inspector Thomas Grant's voice brought me back. He was about 50, sturdy, with a piercing gaze that inspired confidence. His impeccable uniform calmed me. Good morning, Inspector. This is Nora Jimenez, who alerted me. Miss Jimenez, your call was timely. We've been working intensely. He invited us into his cluttered office. Joan, before your formal statement, we need urgent medical tests. Blood and hair samples for any administered substances. Still possible after a week? I asked. Yes. Brotzepam can be detected for 3 to 7 days, metabolites in hair for up to 3 months. If Miss Jimenez's description is accurate, we'll find evidence. A forensic technician entered, taking samples. The inspector continued, We obtained a court order to tap your children's communications and search their homes. Operation began 2 hours ago. They're already at my house? Indeed. Simultaneous searches at Sergio's, Christina's, and Raquel's residences. We've also frozen their bank accounts. The police efficiency was astounding. Inspector, what happens when my children return and discover the search? We timed it for their absence. Agents should be done before they return. However, we need your cooperation for a crucial phase. Joan, we want to organize a controlled operation to obtain direct confessions. Documentary evidence is strong, but recorded testimonies would strengthen the case considerably. The proposal terrified me. Voluntarily returning to Sergio's house, knowing they were desperate. Are there no less risky alternatives? I understand your concern. But consider the legal situation. Forgery, controlled substances, compromising phone recordings. A competent lawyer could argue you signed consciously, meds were legitimate, conversations open to interpretation. Nora, who'd been silent, spoke with determination. Mrs. Morales, I'll be there to protect you. I can make sure you don't consume anything they offer you and maintain constant communication with the police. Miss Jimenez is right, Grant confirmed. She's our official collaborator. We'll install external surveillance and rapid response units within 2 blocks. What if something goes wrong? You'll carry an emergency device. One button triggers immediate intervention. Security codes for Miss Jimenez too. He showed me a tiny shirt button, a high-sensitivity mic, GPS transmitter. The technology was impressive. Consider the consequences of not acting decisively, Grant continued. Your children are under extreme pressure from violent lenders. If they don't get the money in the next few days, they might try something desperate and irreversible. His words hit hard. My children had already crossed a line. If I didn't stop them now, with police protection, it might be too late. When would this operation be? Ideally tonight. Our investigations show they were planning to invite you for dinner tomorrow to finalize family matters. Getting ahead gives us a tactical advantage. How do I explain my unexpected return? Miss Jimenez suggested an alibi. You felt unwell during your walk. She found you disoriented and brought you to Sergio's house so your children could care for you. Nora nodded. I'll tell them I found you dizzy, worried about your blood pressure. They know my discretion. The forensic technician returned. Inspector, Brotzipum confirmed in significant concentrations traces of citralum derivatives. High doses about a week ago. Perfect, Joan. Scientific confirmation. A solid basis for criminal charges. Relief and horror mixed within me. Proof of betrayal, confirmation they incapacitated me to rob me. Inspector, I agree. But one guarantee, if something goes wrong, if my life is in danger, your agents intervene immediately, regardless of the recording. You have my personal word and professional commitment, Joan. Your safety is our absolute priority. Leaving the station, a certainty crystallized. These were not my children. They were desperate criminals. And I would be the instrument of their downfall. It was 6:03 p.m. when we returned to the station to finalize the operation. Inspector Grant had assembled a specialized team, surveillance, communications, rapid intervention. Their professionalism was reassuring. Joan, meet Sergeant Lopez, undercover specialist, and Officer Ruiz, recording expert. Sergeant Lopez, athletic and sharp, laid out tiny devices. Mrs. Morales will use 3 redundant recording systems. This directional microphone in a shirt button, a GPS transmitter in your belt, and this micro camera in your glasses, our most important element. It gives us a direct feed, allowing instant intervention. Officer Ruiz added, all synchronized with our mobile command center, 150 yards from Sergio's house. Continuous audio-visual feed, immediate response. How does the emergency system work? Sergeant Lopez handed me an ordinary pen. Press this end twice for a silent alarm. Agents will storm the house in 90 seconds. 3 times, immediate danger, faster intervention. Nora would carry a special phone, 1 for situation under control, 2 for caution, 3 for immediate intervention. Grant unfurled aerial photos of Sergio's neighborhood, marking strategic positions. 6 agents, 3 unmarked vehicles, a delivery van, a private car, an electric maintenance motorcycle. All access points. Monitored. What if my children suspect something? Sergeant Lopez answered. We've prepared an alibi for nervousness. Attribute it to your medical scare. It's natural. Nora added, I'll say I found you very worried about your health, and you insisted on coming back to be near family. They know my personality. What time should we arrive? Our surveillance agents confirmed your children returned an hour ago. Microphones installed during the morning search show they're discussing your disappearance. Nervous, but not suspicious. Did you find more evidence during the search? Considerably. The hidden folder Miss Jimenez mentioned, plus 3 additional cell phones with communications to illegal lenders. Also, a bottle of citrulline in Sergio's refrigerator labeled medicine for mom. They had prepared fake medications to drug me repeatedly. The coldness was chilling. What kind of conversation should I have? Sergeant Lopez explained, mention concerns about your will or savings. If you express worries about your money's security, they'll try to reassure you, offering to manage it. That's our opportunity for confessions. Officer Ruiz added, mention feeling confused about recently signed documents. If they're worried you're questioning the signatures from July 8th, they might reveal how they obtained them. Should I confront them directly? Grant replied, absolutely not. Any direct confrontation would put them on high alert and provoke violent reactions. Maintain the attitude of a concerned but trusting mother. Let them reveal compromising information. Nora suggested, Mrs. Morales could say she's grateful for such responsible children. That might make them lower their guard. How long should the visit last? Sergeant Lopez calculated, between 1 and 2 hours. Enough time for substantial recordings, but not so long as to raise suspicion. The inspector handed me a sealed envelope. Joan, these are transcripts of the phone conversations we intercepted today between your children and Miguel the Blade. The threats have intensified. I read with horror, Miguel demanding immediate payment, detailing sadistic consequences. Not empty threats. Specific promises of physical violence. When do you plan to intervene with Miguel the Blade? Simultaneously. While we record your children's confessions, another team will arrest Miguel and his organization. We want to dismantle the entire network at once. The complexity was immense. This wasn't just family fraud, but an investigation against a criminal organization. Are you mentally prepared for this, Joan? Officer Ruiz asked with genuine concern. Hearing your own children confess to plans to murder you will be emotionally devastating. Her question forced me to reflect. My renewed faith had taught me forgiveness and compassion, but also justice and protecting the innocent. Officer, I've lived 78 years, raised 3 children believing in honesty, loyalty, respect for life. Discovering they've betrayed those principles is painful. But allowing them to continue would be a betrayal of everything Robert and I taught them. Nora squeezed my hand. Mrs. Morales, you are not alone. We are all here to protect you. Grant checked everyone's watches. It's 7:15 p.m. deployment at 7:30. Joan and Miss Jimenez arrive at Sergio's house at 8 p.m. sharp. All systems operational. As they discreetly fitted me with the devices, terror and determination filled my chest. In less than an hour, I would face my children. After tonight, they would simply be criminals who tried to murder their own mother for money. At 8 p.m. sharp, Nora stopped her car in front of Sergio's house. My heart pounded so hard I feared the devices would pick it up. The 2-story house, modern light brick, well-maintained garden. It looked the same. But now it was a stage for a confrontation that would define the rest of my life. Lights glowed in the living room, once welcoming, now sinister. Mrs. Morales, act naturally, Nora whispered, checking her phone. I'll handle food and drinks. Don't touch anything that hasn't passed through my hands. I took a deep breath, adjusted my glasses with the microcamera, and subtly touched the emergency pin in my pocket. The door opened before we rang. Sergio appeared, feigning relief and concern. Mom, thank God you're okay. We were so worried when you disappeared from the beach. He hugged me, a gesture that now felt utterly fake. Nora found me feeling dizzy near the parking lot, I explained, sticking to the script. Too much sun for my age, I think. Christina emerged from the kitchen, drying her hands. Her smile seemed genuinely relieved, confusing me for a moment. Was there any authentic love left? Or was she a consummate actress? Mom, you gave us such a scare. Raquel's in the living room. She was about to call the hospitals. Raquel practically ran out, her eyes showing anxiety that could be filial love, but which I now suspected had darker motivations. Mom, are you feeling better? Do you need a doctor? Your blood pressure has been irregular lately. She took my arm with exaggerated gentleness. I'm fine, honey. Just need to rest and a cool drink, I replied, letting them guide me to the living room. The house screamed of the borrowed luxury my children maintained. Italian leather, a giant TV, decorations beyond their salaries. Every object a reminder of their unsustainable financial lie. Nora, please bring some mineral water, Sergio requested, a tension underlying his casual tone. Of course, Mr. Sergio, Nora replied, heading to the kitchen. She had her instructions. I sat on the main sofa, observing my children. Christina to my right, Raquel to my left, Sergio standing before me, unconsciously adopting a dominant posture. Mom, we've been discussing your financial situation, Sergio began, feigning concern. At your age, managing so many savings must be stressful. Why do you bring that up now? I asked, feigning innocent surprise. Christina interjected, gently, Mom, Dad handled so much paperwork. Without him, you must feel overwhelmed by financial responsibility. It's true some things have gotten more complicated, I admitted, following the police strategy. Lately, I've been feeling confused about some documents I remember signing. The three exchanged quick glances. The microcamera would have caught it. Sergio cleared his throat. What kind of documents are you worried about, Mom? Well, I remember signing papers a week ago at our family lunch, but I can't quite remember what they were for. My memory isn't what it used to be. I watched them closely. Raquel leaned in, understanding. Mom, those were just health insurance update forms. Routine paperwork to help you out. But I have a feeling there were large numbers involved, significant amounts, I pressed, maintaining confusion. Sergio sat opposite me, trying to appear relaxed, but his muscles were tense. Mom, maybe it's time we consider a simpler system for your finances. Something that takes the pressure off you. Nora returned with a sealed bottle of mineral water, opening it in front of me before pouring a glass. Her deliberate movements ensured no tampering. What kind of system are you suggesting? I asked, sipping the water. Christina brightened. We could set up a joint account where one of us handles your daily expenses. That would free you from remembering bills, investments, bank procedures. A joint account? Wouldn't I lose control? Not at all, Mom, Raquel said with false sweetness. Just an administrative tool. You'd maintain absolute ownership. We'd just help with daily management. Besides, Sergio added, leaning forward, considering your episode at the beach, it might be wise to have contingencies for your own safety and peace of mind. What kind of contingencies? If you had another episode of confusion or your health worsened, you'd need someone you trust to access your resources for medication, urgent medical treatments, any emergency, Christina explained, sounding logical. The conversation was unfolding exactly as anticipated. They were giving seemingly reasonable arguments to gain control. But I knew their true motives. How much money would be necessary for that joint account? I asked, feigning genuine consideration. Sergio exchanged a quick glance with his sisters. To be completely safe, maybe most of your savings. Most of it? We're talking about the $950,000 I have saved up. The silence was deafening. I had just confirmed the exact amount of my assets, information they needed to finalize their plans. Mom, how do you know that specific figure? Raquel asked, unable to hide her curiosity. I checked my bank statements last week. Was it after our family lunch when I felt so strange and sleepy? For some reason, I had insomnia that night and decided to check my finances. They became visibly nervous. If I'd truly checked my accounts, I would have discovered the discrepancies from the drugged signing. Did you find anything unusual? Christina asked, her voice trembling slightly. Well, there were some movements I didn't remember authorizing, I replied, watching the tension in the room intensify. Sergio stood abruptly, walking to the window. Mom, sometimes banks process transactions with delays. It's normal to see movements that correspond to previous authorizations. Transactions of hundreds of thousands of dollars. Silence again. I had just crossed a line. They would have to reveal something or admit to fraud. The air in the living room grew thick. My 3 children exchanged loaded glances, which I now interpreted with terrifying clarity. Sergio stopped pacing, turning to me, trying to remain calm, but his eyes betrayed growing desperation. Mom, I think there's a misunderstanding about those bank movements, he said, slowly returning to his seat like a predator. Maybe we should clarify exactly what you saw. I saw transfers for considerable amounts that I don't remember authorizing, I repeated, maintaining my vulnerable confusion. Amounts that could solve very serious financial problems. Christina shifted restlessly, fingers drumming. Mom, sometimes we sign bank documents without paying full attention to the details. It's normal at our age. At your age. I meant my age. Are you implying my mind isn't working properly anymore? Raquel quickly intervened. Of course not, Mom. Christina just means complex finances can be stressful for anyone. But you all seem to know more about my finances than I remember myself. I observed, allowing a note of suspicion to filter into my voice for the first time. The silence stretched uncomfortable. I saw them communicate nonverbally, reaching a consensus. Sergio took a deep breath, adopting a more direct posture. Mom, we need to be honest with you about our family situation. What situation? The 3 of us, we've had some financial problems recently, he admitted, tense. Nothing serious. Just some debts that piled up faster than we anticipated. Christina nodded. Mom, you know we've always been responsible, but the economy's tough. Expenses went up, salaries didn't. What kind of debts? I asked, feigning motherly concern. Raquel exchanged a meaningful look with Sergio. Loans for houses, cars, some investments that didn't pan out. How much do you owe in total? My question landed like a bomb. They visibly tensed. No one answered for seconds. It's a considerable amount, Sergio finally mumbled. Hundreds of thousands. Yes, Christina admitted, barely audible. Almost $400,000. The impact of my specific question was immediate. Sergio turned pale. Christina gasped. Raquel brought her hands to her mouth. How? How do you know that exact figure? Sergio stammered. Because that's precisely the amount that appears on transfer documents bearing my signature. A signature I don't remember consciously making. I replied with a calmness I didn't feel. Nora, discreetly in a corner, came over with more water, her slow movements giving me time to process their reaction. Mom, Raquel said, voice broken. If you saw those documents, then you know we're in a desperate situation. Desperate to what extent? Sergio stood, pacing, running hands through his hair. Mom, the people we owe money to, they're not exactly traditional banks. What does that mean? It means if we don't pay soon, the consequences go beyond credit problems, Christina explained, tears forming. What kind of consequences? Raquel sobbed. Mom, they threatened us. Said if we don't pay by Thursday, they'd start with more persuasive methods. Who threatened you? Sergio stopped at the window, back to me. A man named Miguel. Miguel Fernandez. But everyone knows him by another name. What other name? Christina whispered. Miguel the Blade. The name confirmed everything. They'd chosen the most violent loan shark. And what did this Miguel ask for? The full $380,000 plus accumulated interest, Sergio answered, turning, desperation on his face. In total, almost $400,000. When? The day after tomorrow. July 20th. And what happens if you can't pay? Silence. But this time, it was the silence of people who had contemplated terrible possibilities, made irreversible decisions. Mom, Raquel finally said, barely audible. Miguel explained he has methods to ensure payment one way or another. What methods? Sergio returned to the sofa, leaning forward, intense. Mom, if something happened to you, if you had some accident or a serious health problem, we would inherit immediately. The process would be quick, especially if there's a clear will and powers of attorney already established. The words chilled me to the bone. My own son had just admitted they considered my death a solution. Are you suggesting my death would be convenient for you? Christina covered her face. Mom, we didn't want to think about that, but Miguel pressured us to consider all available options. All options. Raquel sobbed harder. Mom, Miguel told us if we couldn't get the money from you voluntarily, we would have to secure the payment another way. What other way specifically? Sergio looked me directly in the eyes, a mixture of shame and desperate determination. Mom, at your age, a domestic accident wouldn't be suspicious. A fall down the stairs, a heart problem during the night, something. That would seem natural. And you've already planned this accident? Their silence confirmed it more than words. Christina researched medications that could simulate heart problems, Raquel admitted, between sobs. Raquel consulted on rapid cremation procedures to avoid lengthy autopsies. And you, Sergio, what was your part? My eldest son looked at me, a mixture of pain and resolve that broke my heart. I would be in charge of being with you when it happened. To make sure you didn't suffer and everything looked natural. When was this accident supposed to happen? This week, Christina whispered. Miguel gave us until Thursday, so we would have to act before then. Tomorrow. Sergio nodded slowly. We had planned to invite you over tomorrow. It was going to be the last time. Their confessions confirmed everything and more. My own children hadn't just planned to drug and rob me, they had meticulously detailed a plan to murder me and stage it as a natural accident. And after my death, we would inherit immediately. Pay Miguel and no one would suspect a thing, Raquel explained, voice broken. You would be remembered as a beloved mother who died peacefully at her son's house. Have you considered that you are describing the premeditated murder of your own mother? All three began to cry simultaneously, but their tears no longer moved me. They were tears of self-pity, not genuine remorse. Mom, we had no choice, Sergio moaned. Miguel doesn't take excuses. If we don't pay, he'll kill us, and then he'd come for you anyway. At that moment, with their full confessions recorded, I knew they had crossed a line. They were no longer my children. They were desperate criminals who had chosen murder as the solution to their self-inflicted problems. The wall clock read 9:15 p.m. I had heard enough. Their confessions had exceeded the police's most pessimistic expectations. My children, I said with a calmness that surprised even myself. What you have just confessed is one of the most serious crimes under the law. Sergio straightened up, as if my words triggered an alarm. Mom, why are you using that word, confessed? You sound like a judge or a police officer. His observation struck me. My vocabulary had subtly changed. After an afternoon with investigators, I'd unconsciously adopted their legal terminology. Sergio, I am your mother, and you just explained you were planning to kill me tomorrow night, I replied, maintaining a serene tone. How do you expect me to react? Christina got up nervously. Mom, you're talking strangely. You're usually more emotional when we discuss serious family problems. Raquel stood too, studying my face with growing attention. Mom, are you okay? Something's different about your behavior. The tension shifted from confessional guilt to defensive suspicion. Their survival instincts were kicking in. Different in what way? I asked, trying to maintain the confused old woman character. Normally, after hearing something so disturbing, you'd be screaming, crying, or at least trembling, Sergio observed, approaching me cautiously. But you're too calm, too controlled. Nora intervened from the kitchen. Mrs. Morales has been very upset since the episode at the beach. Maybe the shock made her react differently. Shock, Christina repeated, looking at Nora with growing suspicion. Nora, you found my mother at the beach, right? Exactly where and how? I found her near the parking lot. She seemed disoriented and worried about her blood pressure, Nora replied, sticking to the rehearsed version. But why were you at the beach? Raquel pressed. It was your day off. You usually spend it with Valerie. That question revealed a detailed knowledge of Nora's routine, unsettling me. They had been monitoring her. Valerie wanted to go to the beach, so we decided to spend the day there, Nora explained, her voice betraying nervousness. Sergio stopped directly in front of me, leaning in to examine my face. Mom, something doesn't add up. First, you disappear mysteriously. Then, You return hours later with Nora, who coincidentally found you. Now, you're interrogating us about our financial problems using legal terminology. And you react with unnatural calmness to confessions that should devastate you. His analysis was too precise. My performance, initially convincing, couldn't hold. I just found out my own children are planning to murder me, I said, partially abandoning the pretense. Did you expect me to react with hysterics? I expected you to react like our mother, not like a professional investigator, he replied, his voice tightening. Christina went to the window, pulling the curtain aside slightly. Mom, there are several vehicles parked in unusual places on our street. A van I've never seen before. A car that's been there too long. My heart raced. They were detecting the surveillance. What are you implying, Christina? I'm implying that maybe your disappearance wasn't as accidental as you made us believe, she replied, turning to me, hostility growing. Raquel joined her sister. Christina's right. Too much suspicious activity to be a coincidence. Sergio went to a drawer, pulled out binoculars. Watching the street, his expression hardened. Mom, the man in the blue car is wearing an earpiece. The delivery van has no real company logos. Someone's watching from inside. The situation deteriorated rapidly. They had identified the police and saw me as responsible. What are you suggesting? I asked, though I knew. I'm suggesting you betrayed us, Sergio replied, a harshness in his voice I'd never heard. Nora tried to intervene. Mr. Sergio, Mrs. Morales has been with me all afternoon. She hasn't had a chance to contact anyone. All afternoon with you? Christina repeated with venomous sarcasm. A housekeeper who coincidentally becomes our mother's constant companion. On the same day, police surveillance appears on our street. Nora just helped me when I felt sick, I protested weakly. Raquel returned from the window, fury in her eyes. Mom, you know what I think really happened? I think Nora found out something, warned you, and together you contacted the police. That's ridiculous. Is it ridiculous? Sergio interrupted, approaching menacingly. Then explain why you're wearing a different shirt than the one you had on at the beach this morning. His observation hit me like lightning. I had changed my shirt at the station to accommodate the devices. A seemingly insignificant detail, now compromising everything. I changed because the other one was sweaty after the episode at the beach, I lied desperately. And, where did you get this new shirt? I don't recognize it from your wardrobe, Christina pressed, with the insight of someone who had been studying my habits for months. Before I could answer, Sergio lunged at me, patting down my shirt. Mom, there's something hard here, like a strange button. His fingers found the device. The charade was over. It's a microphone, he shouted, violently ripping it off. She's recording us. Christina ran over, examining my glasses. And this looks like a tiny camera. Raquel ran too. Wards Nora, a murderous expression on her face. You contacted them. You set all this up. Mrs. Raquel, please. Nora cried, backing towards the wall. Sergio crushed the microphone under his foot, uncontrolled fury on his face. Mom, you just destroyed your own family. You just condemned us all. At that exact moment, as if waiting for a signal, the front and back doors burst open simultaneously with a deafening crash. Police, get on the ground now. Armed officers stormed in from multiple directions, filling the living room with shouts and the metallic sound of handcuffs. Inspector Grant appeared among the first, heading directly to me. Joan, are you hurt? I'm fine, Inspector, I replied, watching as my 3 children were forced to the ground. Mom, Sergio screamed as they cuffed him. You betrayed us. We are your family. Mrs. Morales, Officer Ruiz called from the entrance. We have simultaneously arrested Miguel the Blade Fernandez and 2 associates. We found documentation confirming the threats against your family. Christina sobbed hysterically as she was lifted. Mom, we were your children. How could you do this? You were my children until you decided to murder me for money, I answered with a surprising firmness. Raquel looked at me with pure hatred as she was escorted out. You'll regret this. Family protects each other. They don't betray each other, I countered. Miss Jimenez, Sergeant Lopez said, approaching Nora. Your bravery has saved a life and dismantled a criminal organization. You will have police protection. As I watched my 3 children being put into separate police vehicles, a mixture of relief and emotional devastation washed over me. I had saved my life, but I had lost my family forever. The months following that night, July 16th, were a whirlwind of legal proceedings, court testimonies, and revelations that shook the foundations of my reality. The legal process formally began on August 15, 2023, when the district attorney's office filed charges against Sergio, Christina, and Raquel for attempted first-degree murder, conspiracy, and fraudulent administration. The trial was held in the county courthouse, an imposing room with high ceilings and dark wood panels that reflected the solemnity of the judicial system. During the first sessions, I had to face the surreal experience of testifying against my own children, who sat at the defendant's table in prison uniforms, their expressions alternating between shame and resentment. The prosecutor, Linda Carmen, a 45-year-old woman with a reputation for unwavering toughness in cases of domestic violence, presented a devastatingly solid case. The recordings obtained during the police operation were played in their entirety, causing visible shivers among the jury as they heard my children plan my murder with calculated coldness. Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the prosecutor declared, we are faced with one of the most execrable cases of family betrayal. 3 adult individuals, beneficiaries of their mother's love and generosity, meticulously conspired to drug her, steal her entire fortune, and physically eliminate her to accelerate their inheritance. The defense attorneys tried multiple strategies to minimize the charges. Sergio's lawyer argued duress from violent lenders. Christina's defender alleged dominant psychological influence from her older siblings. Raquel's lawyer maintained she was a collateral victim. However, the prosecution's evidence was overwhelming. Beyond the audio and video, investigators recovered extensive phone records, WhatsApp messages detailing every phase of the plan, and forensic evidence confirming the administration of controlled substances. The most impactful testimony came from Nora Jimenez. For 2 full days, she detailed how she uncovered the conspiracy, describing the overheard conversations, the photographed documents, and the moral decision that led her to risk everything. Your Honor, Nora declared with a firm but emotional voice, Mrs. Morales was the only person who treated me with dignity. She ensured I kept my job, even paid my daughter's medical bills. I could not allow such a kind person to be murdered by her own family. Her words resonated, visibly moving several jury members. The most devastating moment was the full recording of my children's confessions. Hearing their voices again, coldly admitting they planned to speed up my departure and that a domestic accident wouldn't be suspicious, shattered me. But it also strengthened my resolve for justice. Sergio tried to address me. Mom, we never would have actually gone through with that plan. It was just desperation. I looked him in the eyes. Sergio, the recordings prove you had specific dates, detailed methods, and contingencies to eliminate evidence. Those aren't just words. That is criminal premeditation. Christina appealed to my maternal feelings. Mom, we are your family. We've made terrible mistakes, but we're still your children. Doesn't that mean anything? It meant everything to me for 78 years, I replied, my voice broken. But you chose to destroy that relationship when you decided my money was worth more than my life. Raquel, the last to testify, tried the most manipulative approach. Mom, Dad would be devastated if he could see how you've destroyed our family. He always taught us that family forgives each other. Her words hurt deeply. But I found strength in Robert's memory. Your father taught me about unconditional love, but also about justice and protecting the innocent. He would never have tolerated you trying to murder your own mother. The most revealing phase was when the prosecutor presented additional evidence from the expanded investigation. Detectives traced my children's financial activities for 2 years, revealing extravagant spending funded entirely by usurious loans. Your Honor, the prosecutor explained, the defendants did not fall into debt due to unforeseen circumstances. They deliberately adopted unsustainable lifestyles, financing luxuries with money borrowed at criminal interest rates, knowing they could not repay those amounts with legitimate incomes. Receipts painted a picture of systematic irresponsibility, luxury dinners, thousands in clothes and jewelry, international vacations on credit. From the moment they took on these debts, she continued, the defendants knew their only hope of solvency was to access their mother's assets. The death of their father simply accelerated their criminal timeline. The financial investigator's testimony was damning. The defendants would have needed to work for 47 years without any personal expenses to pay off their debts with legitimate income. The elimination of their mother was not a desperate last-minute option. It was their financial plan from the beginning. Miguel the Blade also testified, providing details about his conversations with my children, confirming Sergio had proposed the permanent solution. The Morales family were not innocent victims, Miguel declared with a cynical smile. They came to me with a complete plan. They knew exactly how much money the old lady had. They knew how to access it. And when they proposed the faster alternative, they already had all the details worked out. During closing arguments, the defense made one last desperate attempt, emphasizing the family tragedy, arguing that imprisoning my children would leave me alone. But Prosecutor Carmen dismantled those arguments. Your Honor, the defendants do not deserve compassion for having destroyed the family bonds they voluntarily chose to break. Joan Morales will not be alone. She will be safe, protected from those who proved they were willing to murder her for financial gain. On December 18, 2023, after 3 days of deliberation, the jury returned unanimous guilty verdicts on all charges against the 3 defendants. The judge pronounced the sentences with appropriate solemnity. Sergio Morales, Cristina Morales, and Raquel Morales are found guilty of attempted first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit a crime, fraudulent administration of another's assets, and administration of controlled substances without consent. Each is sentenced to 15 years in prison without the possibility of parole before serving 10 years of the sentence. When I heard those words, I experienced a complex mixture of relief, sadness, and final justice. My children had received the appropriate consequences. But that didn't alleviate the pain of having forever lost the people who were once the most important thing in my life. Miguel the Blade and his associates received harsher sentences, 18 years for Miguel, 12 years each for his accomplices. As I left the courtroom for the last time, Sergio shouted from the defendant's box, "Mom, one day you'll regret this. We're your only family." I turned to him one last time. "Sergio, my family died the night you decided to kill me. The criminals going to prison today just happened to have my children's names." The months following the trial marked the beginning of the most transformative stage of my existence. January 2024 arrived with a sense of liberation I hadn't experienced since Robert's death. For the first time in years, I could sleep peacefully, knowing no one was planning to harm me, that my financial decisions were truly my own, and that the people close to me valued me for who I was, not what I possessed. The first important decision I made was to legally formalize my relationship with Nora and Valerie. On February 15, 2024, accompanied by my lawyer, Mr. Garcia, the same lawyer manipulated by Sergio years ago, I completed the paperwork to establish a family trust that would guarantee their financial future. "Joan," Mr. Garcia said, "it's admirable how you've transformed such a traumatic experience into an opportunity to build genuine family bonds." "Mr. Garcia," I replied, signing the papers with a steady hand, "I've learned that true family is not defined by blood, but by loyalty, selfless affection, and the willingness to protect one another." Nora cried when I explained the details of the trust. I had established a full educational fund for Valerie, covering everything from primary education to university and beyond. I had also created a security fund guaranteeing Nora's economic stability for her entire life. "Mrs. Morales, this is too generous," she protested, her voice choked. "We didn't expect anything for doing the right thing." "That's precisely why you deserve it," I replied, hugging her like the daughter I never thought I'd have again. "You saved my life without expecting any benefit. Now I want to make sure you have all the opportunities that my biological children squandered." Valerie's integration into my life was surprisingly natural. This intelligent 9-year-old had an insatiable curiosity and an innate kindness that constantly reminded me why it's worth building a better future. In March 2024, I enrolled her in a prestigious bilingual school. "Grandma Joan," she said, using the title she had spontaneously adopted, "why do my classmates say it's strange that my grandma isn't really my grandma?" Her words moved me deeply. "Valerie, some grandparents are lucky enough to choose their grandchildren, and some grandchildren are lucky enough to choose their grandparents. We chose each other." In the afternoons, after Valerie finished her homework, we established routines that filled my life with renewed purpose. Tuesdays and Thursdays, piano lessons. Saturday mornings, swimming. Sundays, after church, we visited museums, parks, or simply walked downtown while she told me about her dreams. "I want to be a doctor like the one who took care of Mom when I was sick," she confided during one of those walks. "But I also really like music. Can I be a doctor and a pianist at the same time?" "Valerie, you can be anything your heart and hard work allow you to achieve," I replied, buying ice cream near the cathedral. "Your new financial situation will give you opportunities many children don't have, but it will be your decisions and dedication that determine what you do with them." My spiritual life also deepened. Father Anthony, my guide through the darkest moments after Robert's death, now became my partner in building something positive and lasting. "Joan," he proposed in April 2024, "you've received a second chance at life, literally. Have you considered how you could use this experience to help others?" His suggestion resonated immediately. "Father Anthony, I've thought a lot about that. There must be other elderly people facing family manipulation, isolation, or financial abuse without the resources I had." "Exactly. And you have both the personal experience and the financial means to make a real difference." Over the following weeks, we developed the concept for the Rose Center for Senior Support, named after Robert, honoring his memory. In May 2024, I acquired a 3-story building in a central neighborhood. The renovation took 4 months. The center included offices for free legal advice, psychological therapy, educational workshops on financial protection, and a specialized library. We also established a 24-hour emergency hotline for abused or manipulated elderly people. Nora accepted my offer to become the center's administrative director. Her experience and intuitive understanding of dysfunctional family dynamics made her perfect. "Mrs. Morales," she told me during the first week of operation in September 2024, "we've received 17 calls from people who suspect family manipulation. 3 cases seem as serious as yours." "What kind of manipulation?" 2 cases involve adult children pressuring parents to transfer properties, and one seems to be grandchildren systematically drugging their grandfather to access his pension. The realization that my experience was not unique, but part of a broader social problem, motivated me to intensify our efforts. I hired 2 more social workers, partnered with family law firms, and developed community education programs on elder financial abuse. During this period, I received 47 letters from my children in prison. They all followed the same pattern: pleas for forgiveness, promises of change, appeals to family unity, and veiled threats about my future loneliness. I read each one meticulously but never answered. Not out of cruelty, but because I understood the difference between genuine repentance and continued manipulation. Their letters never fully acknowledged their actions, never took full